Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing ChessNakas in the 15-minute pool on ICC. ChessNakas is 21-26, and he's playing the Dutch defense. He has an avatar of an onion. I think that's an onion. And he's from... what country is that? I'm going to play knight f3, by the way. What country is that? I don't want to click on it. I'm going to try to figure it out. What is this? Bishop e7. Wonder if he's going to play for d5 or d6. This is kind of like a very classical way of playing the Dutch defense. I'm gonna play c4, and I might go b3 and bishop b2 because I do like to double fianchetto against the Dutch, but I might hold off on that too. We'll see. Yeah, now I will do this fianchetto because I think putting the bishop on b2 really hinders the e5 push for him, which is a definite theme in the Dutch. Still haven't figured out what country that is. Okay, I give up and just look. Lithuania. My friend Tautvydas Vidrikas from Lithuania would not be proud that I failed to identify his home country by their flag. Okay, so knight d to f6. One thing I'm wondering is if I can play d5 now. Because if d5... e takes d5, c takes d5, knight takes d5, I would have knight takes e4, hitting his knight on d5. So he'd just be losing a piece there. But obviously he doesn't have to do that. He could play d5, e5 if he wanted. Push past. What is my plan otherwise? If d5, e5, do I have a concrete plan? I don't like that he can just drive a wedge and close down the center and start playing on the king side. So I'm going to play a neutral move. I'm going to play queen c2. This is a real generic setup I'm choosing. In fact, I would do this same setup against like a Leningrad Dutch as well, where black fianchettos their dark square bishop. So I'm not entirely sure that I'm adopting like the best formation against this line, but I don't think it's bad either. Okay, queen e8, so he's probably going to be trying to play queen h5. And maybe set up threats against h2. Might be high time to take his knight on e4, even though I don't really want to. I think it leads to liquidations. What else could I do? I could do the d5 move again. That's always possible. I could play knight e1 and try to bring this knight to d3. Where it would stand pretty well. I actually kind of like that plan. Knight e1, let's say queen h5, and then knight d3. If knight g4, I can just play h3. He might be able to take on f2, but I doubt it. Doesn't look that good. Yeah, let's try it. Let's give it a shot. Because my knight stands fairly poorly on f3. I think d3 would be a much better square for it. I'm actually borrowing this idea from a Stonewall Dutch. So trying to angle the knight for d3. And one of the main points about that is you're freeing up your f pawn to come up to f3 and hopefully expand in the center with e4. That's the real end goal. I'm actually noticing that if queen h5, he would be hitting my pawn on e2. So maybe queen h5, I'd have to play f3 straight away, which is not that bad, I don't think, so I might go for that. I'm just going to check this guy and his stats. Yeah, seems pretty good. Consistent ratings across the time controls, like low 2000s. His blitz standard 5-minute, 1-minute, and 15-minute are all between 2000 and 2200. So, yeah, very consistent. Okay, so here I can continue with my plan knight d3, or I can play f3. I think I'll play knight d3 because queen g6 doesn't strike me as like that aggressive of a move. So I think I'm justified in just continuing like this. I wonder if he's going to go to h6 with his queen. From there, it would still attack h2, but it would also attack d2. So I think it's possible he'll do this. I'm still looking to play f3 if I can. In fact, on the next move, if I am allowed, I probably will play f3. I don't know if any more preparation is needed for that pawn push, so I might pull the trigger on it. Well, I've had a pretty brutal day of recording. I got absolutely destroyed in my bullet session, like the worst session I posted. I was like 2-9. Granted, I was playing some strong players. And I lost my 5-minute game today against also a very good player. So I got to get redemption in this 15-minute game. So queen h6, it's attacking d2. Rook a d1 would make sense. The other nice thing about queen h6 for him, by the way, is that when I play f3, he might be able to answer it with queen e3 check. So he can nestle his queen up there. Wonder if I should go rook a d1, maybe with an eye towards playing bishop c1 thereafter. Also, I should calculate if rook a d1, what happens if knight g4. Knight g4, h3. Yeah, actually, I've got f2 like well fortified, so I don't think. I'm just wondering if like the knight coming into e3 at all could be dangerous. It might be actually like rook a d1, knight g4, h3, knight e3. F takes e3, queen takes, and g3 is weak. That's weird. I can also just play e3 in this position. Maybe that's the safest move of all. e3, and then the plan would be rook a e1 to overprotect e3 and maybe then play f3. Still though, e3, knight g4, what am I doing about that? Yeah, that's annoying if that happens. So I have to be very conscious about knight g4 now. I could just take on e4. If I take on e4, I'm a little worried he'll take with the f-pawn, though. My knight can be misplaced. Like, going to f4 is not so good. He has g5. I would hate to have to play bishop c1 here. But, I don't know. Maybe it's a necessary evil. Could be. No, I'm just going to play rook a d1. And if he goes knight g4, I think I could always play knight f3 if I needed to. Maybe. Well, yeah, I think I could. I could play knight f3 if I absolutely had to. So we'll see what he does. I'd love to be able to meet knight g4 with h3, right? Like, that's the most obvious move. But I think that knight e3 response could be annoying. Then again, maybe I'm just tilting at windmills here, because if knight e3, f takes e3, queen takes e3 check, maybe I just play knight f2 and block. It hangs g3, but I am up a piece. As long as I don't allow too much counterplay, that material advantage will be significant for me, and hopefully winning the game. But yeah, rook a d1 is like a very natural move. It makes the bishop c1 idea stronger because I wouldn't box in my rook on a1. So I'm definitely thinking about that. This guy must be a fan of Nakamura, based on his username. Did I say this was an onion? I think I meant that it was a clove of garlic. That's garlic, right? Not an onion. Somebody please confirm. Garlic or onion? I think it's a clove of garlic. Or a piece of garlic, if not a clove. Clearly that will be important to the result of this game, deciding whether that's an onion or a piece of garlic. Well, I got him to slow down and think a little bit. He's probably pondering knight g4. If not knight g4, I mean, maybe he'll just complete his development like bishop d7 would be sensible. Because my plan of going f3 is really hindered right now. I mean, queen e3 check is a pretty good reply. Although I might be able to just tuck my king. I don't know. King h1. It just seems like the queen coming into e3 would be a huge bother for me. I also have this bishop c1 move, though. So if not f3 next move, bishop c1 is also possible. X-raying his queen. Okay, he takes, so I can take with the queen and enter an endgame if I want. I might do that. Yeah, I think I will. Not just because I like endgames, but I think the resulting position might be slightly better for me. He agrees to play an endgame. I'm going to go rook c2 against this. I bet he'll play bishop d7. I think I'm just slightly better mobilized right now. I mean, he's still completing his development. He still needs to bring his light square bishop out. If I have an advantage, it's not much. I'm not working with a whole lot. But given that I just thought he had attacking chances, I think converting or transitioning into an endgame is not a bad idea. And this is maybe not even an endgame. It could be more accurately called a queenless middle game, as I called the Berlin endgame when I played a Berlin endgame not long ago in a 15-minute game I posted. I would play bishop d7. I mean, why not? He's got to develop that light square bishop sooner or later. He could maybe fianchetto it, b6, bishop b7. That would be unusual with my bishop on g2, but his knight on e4 can only be chased by f3, but that subsequently blocks my bishop on g2 if I do that. But I would play bishop d7 and forget about it if I were him. Just get that development completed. Yep, and he does. Okay, what to do now? Double up the rooks, play f3. Knight f4. Knight f4 is just maybe being met by g5. I could double up the rooks, or I could play rook d1. d5 is another move, but he has e5, keeping it closed again. I feel like I should be playing mainly on the queen side. That's where I do have my space advantage. So maybe I'll play, even looking at like b4, pawn b4. But I'm not sure I want to allow bishop a4. And I'm not sure what the end goal is, to play c5 or something else, because I could play c5 right now if I really wanted to do that. Maybe I'll play rook fc1 and think about going to c5. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Whoops, not my king. Let's go rook fc1. I'm probably making it pretty obvious what I want to do as far as playing c5, but he just plays a5, gaining space. Yeah, I think c5 is okay. Let's do it. I just don't see a lot of other ways forward on the queen side that don't allow him to completely lock the position up. He can lock it up here with d5, but that allows my knight into e5 with tempo on his bishop. So I think he'll be hesitant to do that. Plays bishop c6. That leaves e6 slightly weakened. So I'm thinking maybe take, pawn takes, and then knight f4. Or knight f4 right away. Because if I take on d6 first, maybe he has bishop takes d6. So knight f4 immediately, is that an improvement? I think so, because I'm just going to do it. Because if rook f6, he's walking right into the path of my dark square bishop. So I could play d5 and unleash that bishop with a discovery on his rook. Yeah, I was surprised by how casually he played bishop c6, because it is a little weakening of e6. Yeah, and I like this move order better, because as I said, if c takes d6, maybe bishop takes d6, and he can guard the f4 square with his bishop, trade off my knight when it jumps in there. Or maybe even play rook a e8. As played, it won't be easy for him to figure out what to do about that pawn. His bishop d7 would be kind of a sign of defeat. And bishop d5, I'll just take it on d5. And rook f6 runs into that aforementioned d5 move. Bishop g5 would pin my knight, but I could take on e6, and if he takes on c1, I take f8. He does have the capture on b2 then, though. Maybe bishop g5 is worth attention. Could I sacrifice an exchange? Like bishop g5, knight takes e6, bishop takes c1, and then a recapture on c1, let's say with the rook? Guess I'll have a chance to find out here. Yeah, I don't think that exchange sack is quite sound. You can play rook f7 at the end of that. So that's too bad that knight takes e6, bishop takes c1, knight takes f8 is met by bishop takes b2. If he couldn't take my b2 bishop, well, I might be justified in going for this tactical operation. But as it stands, I don't think so. Maybe I'll just play e3. Maybe first take on d6. I think that might be... Yeah, I'll take on d6 first. That might be the most accurate thing of all to do. Just so that he can't play d5 and make my rooks look kind of silly on the c file doubled up. Wow, he takes on f4. He's in a hurry to trade that. Okay. Take. There was no good in-between move, so taking is fine. Now maybe here bishop a3 is what I'm thinking. This knight is nearly trapped, but he does have f6 available. I'm thinking bishop a3 just to threaten to maybe take on e4 later. Actually, I don't really like that. Bishop a3, the threat would be f3. This is what it would be. But I'm wondering if bishop a3, then he has pawn a4. I guess I can play bishop b4 then. If I play a4 first, is that an improvement? Might be. Let's go a4 first. No, that weakens b3 though. Okay, changed my mind. We're going with that move after all. And if a4, I'll play bishop b4, probably. Because if a4, bishop takes e4, then he has bishop takes e4 hitting the rook on c2. Although, arguably, I could play rook c7 then. No, he has a takes b3. So probably if a4, I need to just address the threat of a takes b3 and move my bishop to a better square, so I'll play bishop b4. Pretty sure. Approaching the 5-minute mark. It's been an interesting game thus far. I wouldn't say one where I've been particularly happy with the way I played it. I mean, I was definitely like not pressing out of the opening. Rook a d8 is very sensible. That knight is just a huge problem for me. I need to kick it back. But I don't want to block in my light square bishop at the same time. I might have to, though. f3, let's say knight f6 and then e3, trying to go bishop f1. Is that okay? Yeah, again, I just don't see a lot of good alternatives. Okay, let's do it. This knight's got to go. He needs to go backwards. I hate to give him like the route to d5, but needs to be done. And then knight d5, I'll play king f2 and prepare bishop f1. Seems almost like I'll have to sacrifice an exchange on c6 sooner or later to get something going. Yeah, we'll just bring up our king. Now rook f6 wouldn't be that bad of an idea. Yeah, rook f6, and maybe he can swing the rook over to h6, attacking h2, or perhaps even g6 and attack the bishop. My pawn structure in the center is not very flexible. That's annoying. Yeah, this is probably a good move. I really just want to sack the exchange on c6, even though I know it's bad. I'm just very enamored by this idea. So take, take, take. I am attacking d6 again. No, I'm going to play bishop f1. And if he goes rook h6, I'll play h3. I'm going to bide my time. Because bishop f1 is a necessary move somewhere. My bishop's not going to be sticking around on g2 very long. I guarantee you that. So I'll still keep open the rook takes c6 option, exchange sacrifice, but I don't want to commit to it right away. King f7, okay. So if I take on c6 twice, I guess he's going to go king e7. Maybe rook a6 then, though. It looks interesting, and it's a clear way forward for me. He might be able to play, so rook takes c6, b takes c6, rook takes c6, knight b4. But I can give a check and then play rook a7. Ooh, I'm just not sure. This bishop's needed to defend h3 for now. Could play some move like rook e1. No, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take. This is high risk, high reward. On the one hand, it's a clear way to play the position, and we're approaching time pressure, so any simplification in the handling of the position is welcome for me. And also, I mean, it's from a practical point of view, it's interesting. Like, I think I get a decent amount of compensation. So, and against this move, I was thinking here. So going after the a pawn. One reason I'm encouraged to do this is that this rook is out of play. Okay, that hangs d6, does it not? I can just take that with check. And at bishop d7, I have bishop b5. So that was an unfortunate choice for him. Do I have to go bishop b5 right away? Bishop b5, king d8. Is there a knockout there? Maybe not. Maybe I'll just play bishop c5. Sure, bishop c5. Don't have a lot of time to think about it, so. I mean, his a-pawn's hanging. I have bishop b5 in reserve if I need it. So, sure, why not? If his knight jumps in anywhere, I'm not afraid. Knight b4, I can just take on a5, no problem. That was a nice break that he played rook c8. So now I've got 2 pawns and possibly a third on the way if I take a5. So material-wise, doing fine. Caught up on the clock entirely. Yeah, suddenly his position looks really uncoordinated. I mean, it did even before rook d8 or rook c8 a little bit. Looked like he had a few issues to solve. He's thinking hard. Yeah, not easy to figure out something to do for him. I mean, honestly, he probably needs this rook in play. But doing something like rook f6 and then hoping to play rook f7 or rook f8 is kind of a pipe dream. I mean, f8 is guarded by my bishop, and f7 he's probably just running into too much stuff like bishop b5, rook a7. Meanwhile, I'm winning the a pawn. Yeah, I think he just doesn't know what to do here. I don't really know what to do for him either. I would be utterly confused. Just going to ping him, make sure he's not lagging or I'm not lagging. Yeah, neither of us is lagging. He's just really thinking. e5. Thought about that move, but I have I have rook a7 check if I want. Or bishop e5 first and then rook a7. Could also trade and then take on e5, but I think I'd prefer to keep more material on. Oh, but rook a7, he'll play rook c7, I think is what he's telling me. Huh. I think regardless, check. I'm going to do this. And then if rook c7, I'll play bishop b5 check. That does weaken h3, though. Maybe I should just take and then take on e5. Nah, let's do check. Do I really care about the h3 pawn when he has a minute left on his clock? King d8. Okay. All right, let's give another check. He blocks.
Check.
Okay, then we'll take this way. There's a lot of center pawns. E6 should be good, shouldn't it?
Check.
Okay. E7. Yeah, let's just make it simple. So 2 bishops versus the rook. It's like a bullet game now. But it's nice to have the material advantage. The slight material advantage. I'm going to go after that pawn. He's trying to defend it. Okay. This makes sense. Just trying to be careful. So king e7. Okay, I got to make sure that pawn doesn't become a problem. H5 is annoying. Got my king boxed in. Just going to try to play bishop e6 or something on the next move.
Check.
Yeah, and then if king c6, I can at least play bishop d5 later. So there's that. Take a5. Let's go here first. Let's give a check.
Check.
Go here.
Time warning. Check. Check.
This was actually not good that I did that. wacky position. Yeah, he could have eliminated my f pawn at the end there. Wow. Yeah, I did not convert that very well at the end. Yeah, the time situation really got the best of both of us down the stretch. Wow, that h pawn just like totally cut me off. Or the rook on g2 rather, and then his h pawn running. So, I do think the fruits of rook takes c6 though were shown, and that was a good, I think a decent practical try at least. My whole position is geared up towards that move working. So, all right, well, let's have a look now. So he played this old school version of the Dutch, so playing just e6 and bishop e7. Not a Stonewall, not a Leningrad. I think this is classical Dutch. I don't remember the exact name of this setup. It's not very popular. But yeah, I think the opening was pretty normal. I wonder if queen c2 is just too innocuous here. I mentioned the idea of d5. If he takes on d5 twice, then I would have knight takes e4, and this wins a piece because the knight on d5 is undefended. So the thing I didn't like about that, though, is that if d5, he can play e5 and close up the center, and then he might be able to just attack me outright on the king side. So with queen c2, I was hoping to keep some tension. But then queen e8, maybe knight e1 was a little too fancy. Maybe I should just play like rook d1 right away. Knight e1, queen g6, knight d3, queen h6. Just want to see what the engine has to say here. It says bishop c1. And what about rook d1? I mean, rook d1 seems more cohesive in that I can play bishop c1 next. I guess knight g4 is not that big of a deal. h3, knight e3, f takes,
Check.
queen takes. King h2,
Check.
take, king h1, okay. Right, so this is not much for him. So take, rook takes d, or I took the queen, right. So I went into this endgame. Yeah, it assesses it as slightly better for me, maybe about equal now. But I felt I had a pretty decent position, and he's still completing his development. And the only thing was I wasn't exactly sure where to play. There hasn't been any pawn exchanges yet, so it's a pretty closed position. And the structure is still pretty fluid. So I'd like to be able to make some sort of pawn break somewhere and maybe use my better coordination to open the position. But yeah, f3 I see as a suggestion. And if knight f6, what then? Rook e1 and try to play for e4? Makes sense. So I just doubled up. a5, c5, here. And I thought bishop c6 was kind of weak, but I guess bishop g5 might take care of business. Oh, king f7. I didn't even see king f7. I don't know why that move escaped my attention, but the computer thinks it's pretty good. On bishop g5, it actually says knight takes e6 is possible. And if here, just rook takes c1 now. Okay. Yeah, I was mainly looking at like the forcing variation. Knight takes f8, bishop takes b2. And I'll be down a piece here because I'm currently down a piece and my knight is attacked on f8, so I don't have time to just outright win his bishop. But that'd be interesting if I could just simply recapture. And his rook is under attack, and c7 is also threatened. And if rook fc8, d5 is apparently strong. Bishop takes d5, knight takes g7, and this is weak. Yeah, that's a very dynamic option. That entails seeing pretty deep into this line. Because to me, just simply playing rook takes c1 is not so obvious. Like, I wouldn't... In an OTB game, I might look at that, but I don't know if I would connect the dots that, d5 is good and whatnot, like going after g7. Not sure I would find that line. So I took on d6, he took on f4. Yeah, black has a pretty solid position here, I think. I didn't like putting my bishop in front of the a-pawn, but I thought if a4, as the computer's suggesting, I thought that bishop d5 would always be annoying with pressure against this backward pawn on b3. So that's why I preferred the immediate bishop a3. And he went rook f d8. I played f3. Computer doesn't like it. It says b4, play on the queen side. Yeah, but this is not achieving very much anyways. I feel like that knight is just, it has to go at some point, whether I take it or whether I let it sit there. I mean, if I was like purely interested in a draw, maybe I would play bishop takes e4, but I'm definitely still trying to win this. I've got the bishop pair, my opponent's low rated. I like my chances in like a blitz situation against him. Maybe rook f6 wasn't good, despite it looking pretty promising. So bishop f1, rook h6, I played h3. And I just couldn't hold back on this rook takes c6 idea any longer. Doesn't get the computer's approval, but then again, I'm not surprised by that. So take, take, take. Yeah, knight b4, I think that was the move I was most concerned about. Just blocking my dark square bishop, threatening a2, also threatening the rook. Takes away the a6 square. It's probably a pretty good move. Rook c7, king g6, e4 is the engine suggestion. It's kind of a messy position. I don't know who I'd rather play here. This knight, this rook looks horrible on h6. Very messy. Instead, though, he played king e7, and I went rook a6, and now a big mistake by him, rook c8. Yeah, that goes from an equal position to a position that's, plus probably about 3 for me. But my conversion was awful after this. Take here, bishop c5. He tried e5, and I gave a check on a7. Maybe bishop b5 check was better. King c7. Now just trade and, take on e5? Okay. This is similar to the game, but with less counterplay for him. And then plus 5.5. Okay. So bishop b5 check and then swap and then take on e5. I thought I was being clever by playing rook a7, but I guess not.
Check.
Still winning, but not clever.
Check.
Rook a8.
Check.
It just really seemed like my two dominating bishops and the e-pawn should carry the day. But I didn't quite get there. e6, rook h2. Check. Thought about playing bishop c6 here before pushing e7, but I think he can just play knight c7 and probably sack his knight for the queening pawn anyways somewhere down the line soon. So I went e7 directly. I'm pretty sure this position should be a win for white. It's just like, shows a pretty risky way to try to win it. The computer's saying just push your d-pawn. Yeah, because pushing the d-pawn might eventually even cost him a rook. I tried to go after his supporting point. Still winning here. h5. That move makes it less certain. So if d5 and then h4, bishop e6 check. What happens if here, bishop takes a5, h3 let's say, bishop check, king c7, d6 check. Okay, yeah, and this pawn becomes very dangerous pretty quickly as well. If his king tries to hang out on d8, I have bishop a5 check to flush him out, and then d7. So I need to focus on counterplay with my d-pawn, rather than, like here I started playing preventative defense.
Check.
Like trying to make sure I could go to d5 and like control the h1 square. But I should have just been focusing on that d-pawn. Yeah, computer indicates it's still winning to do this. Okay. Not going to beat myself up too much. It was pretty much a time scramble at the end, but yeah, I should have played better.
Check.
And now he's better. But I had twice as much time as him in a time scramble situation. Whoa, didn't mean to do that. Twice as much time as him in a time scramble situation. And as you saw, I eventually flagged him. Strange that he didn't eliminate my my f pawn. He was moving pretty fast, so he probably just didn't even think about it. But yeah, he took my b pawn, and then he could have gone after the f pawn too to guarantee himself a draw. But never did that. He's just pre-moving as much as possible now. But okay, well, I learned a thing or two about this line. I'll have to investigate this line, maybe take it a little bit more serious. I've always written off this variation for black because it just wasn't as popular as the Stonewall and Leningrad, which seemed like more pressing ways to try to challenge white. But yeah, I've learned that maybe this is a system I have to take more seriously from the white side. Yeah, overall, I think the middle game was pretty balanced. Wish I would have seen knight takes e6 or looked at it more closely. But all right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this 15-minute game, and I'll be back tomorrow with another one. As always, please leave me any feedback in the comments if you have it, and thank you for watching, guys. Bye.